You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I am Stephen Willis. I am the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Daylan Flowers and his weekly segment as an Ole Miss student on all things Ole Miss sports. How you doing, Daylan?
I'm doing fantastic right now, man. Everything's going good. I can't complain.
Yeah, that's better than the alternative, right?
Absolutely.
So, where to start? I think we should start with Ole Miss got a commitment today from Malik Dia. He is the forward out of Belmont, and essentially, the way I look at it, with Jamarian Sharp and Musa Cisse, there was a liability offensively from bigs last season. It just was. And it's obvious that Chris Beard's like, no, we're not going to do that again. He went out and got two bigs that have averaged about 18, 19 points a game. All of them can shoot, extremely skilled. Malik Dia from Belmont, he's a guy that Ole Miss probably is lucky to get because there's a chance he could have declared for the draft and he'd have gotten picked late in the second round.
You're 100% right. I am ecstatic about these two acquisitions for the team. I think not only are their presence kind of felt on the half-court offense and defense, but I think their spacing and their movement on transition offense can be really helpful for our offense this upcoming year. I mean, I can't tell you how easy it is to get an offense flowing, get a team flowing with momentum just by easy fast break points. If you can get 8 to 10 fast break points, every half, I think you would be set for a good standpoint. I'm excited about Malik Dia. He shot a really good percentage from the free throw line in Belmont this past year, and that's something that I think the entire of our team struggle with. And so when a big man's coming in like that, and mind you, this dude's like 6'9", 245. He's a big dude. He's bringing in a lot of size and a lot of structure down low that I think was missing this past season with Cisse and honestly Brakefield. I think they had a lot of just good chemistry. But I just don't think their matchups, especially against teams like Auburn, who focus on paint presence and big men just out rebounding us. Even A&M just beat us on the offensive boards just in any matchup we had with them. So I think that brings a big boost for us right at that in that moment. And I think this is just, of course, just the beginning. I said this maybe a month ago. I knew as soon as the season was over and we didn't accept the NIT tournament that Chris Beard had already started a checklist of what he thought was needed to transform his team, make it his own, and take it to the next level. And that's why, even as an Arkansas fan and myself as well, I wasn't concerned about him going to Arkansas. I knew that he had established a great relationship here at Ole Miss with Keith Carter. I think his coaching staff that he had kind of developed this first year here before the season started had really enjoyed their time so far at Oxford. So I really was concerned about him going and taking that job. But I am really excited to see also where he moves forward, just kind of setting up other pieces. Juju Murray's back. So we're kind of see what pieces he may set up to help maybe his offense just flow a little bit better and allow him to have more freedom on the offensive side as well. So I'm excited, man. I think they're great acquisitions, and I've kind of put in that placement with him now that I've put in with the football staff. Just trust Chris Beard, allow him to do what he thinks will be best, because I promise you it will continue to develop and wins for our basketball team.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only commitment for Chris Beard and the staff. Michael Brown-Jones committed to Ole Miss, averaged nearly 19 points a game. Again, 7.5 rebounds. These guys do the compact big. It's not Musa Cisse. It's not Jamarian Sharp. It's the guys with the body type. This is before your time, but like Dwayne Curtis and those guys at Ole Miss. And that type kind of is going to allow their athletic ability and everything to switch, and you can play defense the way you want to play defense. Because last year, what would happen is by the end of the year, when they figured out, they realized we were going to switch every single time, and they just kept switching and switching and switching until it was their point guard or their best player on one of our bigs. They would spread out and let them go one-on-one. They'd go right around him for a layup, or they'd miss a three-point shot, and we'd have nobody underneath that could rebound the ball. And this feels like a move by Chris Beard to make sure that doesn't happen again.
I agree, and I think of it in a broader aspect too. I think about the Final Four and a lot of these teams, NC State with the DJ Burns and Purdue with Zach Edey and even UConn with their development of a lot of their different big men. I think, of course, we're in such of a small ball type of basketball in today's world, but I think Chris Beard saw maybe the agenda that lacked from our team this past year and the essence and the greatness that also made other teams in the country be really good, which is the paint presence. I think he wanted to attack that really well. And like guys like Mikael Brown, I think he shot like 80% from the free throw line. Again, that's really good. That's good in general, but that's really good for a big man for us. I think his paint presence, his footwork in the paint. I watched a little film yesterday, is really good. I just think he has a bit of aggressiveness. Like he wants the ball in the paint, and when you give it to him, he knows what to do. And if we can surround him and surround these big men with enough shooters on the outside of perimeter and guys that can get up and down the court, I think we could obviously be really scary. I'm excited just in that aspect because those type of guys put fear into other teams. And when they're continuing to enjoy their basketball and they have a game plan that no matter what the film watching is from the other team can't be stopped, then you have a really hard time trying to win against this team. And that's what Chris Beard is looking at right now. And he's kind of on that road right now where, you know, the coaching staff for the football team was a couple months ago, man. You get them to Oxford, and I have a hard time believing when Chris Beard now gets kids to Oxford and gets them a visit, he's not going to let them leave without committing. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and I am just very happy that he's here. We're keeping him, and he's got a lot of faithful fans on his side right now.
Yes. And just everybody knows we're going to talk about the transfer portal. That's going to happen in the second segment. We just got some commits and everything we got to go through first. Let's talk about Coach Yo and the Lady Rebs. Got a commitment from, I forget her last name. Is Dee
Hagman.
Hagman
Mm-hmm.
From Michigan State, point guard. Yeah. Obviously, Coach Yo did not want to get into a situation to where, like with KK Deans, who got injured, you were without a point guard. Obviously, this is at least a depth piece. This might even be a little bit more than that. This is Coach O seeing that there was a little bit of a problem last year and addressing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people know, we're losing 3 guards right now in the transfer portal, and Markeisha Davis, of course, was one of our starting point guard, and now she's going to the WNBA draft here today. So we have a lot of reestablishing that was needing for our guard position. We are luckily enough to have KK and Kennedy Ty Williams come back next year, but they need assets off the bench as well that can be vital to when they're off the court. And I think that's something that was a big question mark for me this kind of season with the ladies, just rotation and substitutions, and maybe just, I guess, depth that we had on our team kind of lacked at times. And I don't know what that kind of back newsroom would be source for that, but I just saw a difference in a lot of playing time for different people. So hopefully Didi can come in. She was an exceptional scorer, significantly improved this year from her prior years in Michigan State. Just point per game improved. Her assist to ratio total, to turnover ratio was really good this past year. So she brings a good dynamic to this team. And I think she's a bit of a pest on defense too, which is right up Coach Yo's alley. She can shoot the 3-ball pretty good as well. And that's something that we can always use on our team right now because as I know and you know that we always just struggle with that under Coach Yo, so we can continue to try to develop 3-point shooters with her. I think it's going to continue to be a team to look out for.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back from this break, we will be talking about the transfer portal and Ole Miss taking the series against Mississippi State. Right now, I do want to let you know that it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 if you win or lose. You know, one of the things you can bet on there is Ole Miss and their odds to make the 2024 college football playoff. Currently, a yes payout is at -122, which is about 54% probability of it happening. I thought that was interesting, but that's not all. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to make sure you can find the quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free, because LinkedIn just isn't a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. It's even those that aren't actively searching for a new job, but they might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking at LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they may not have the time or the resources to hire. It's just no different than hiring a football coach. If you hire the right coach, he'll have you in the conversation for the playoff. But if you hire the wrong coach, in 3 years, you're going to be doing this again. The difference is, in the real world, this could be happening in 3 weeks. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that screaming and shouting? Make sure you switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today helps you with can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Daylan, let's turn our attention to the transfer portal. And the story is going to be players are going to be coming out of Ole Miss. We don't know who that is at this moment, but this is like I said, the biggest 15 days in the history of Ole Miss football. Some players have to leave because you need spots for people that you're going to bring in, ideally. Now, the position that we hear the most about is probably the running back position. I think that's the area where they're going to start. And Henry Parrish, they're looking that Henry Parrish could be making a trip back to Oxford, Mississippi. Honestly, in my opinion, this thing is probably about as done as it can be. But you still have to wait for him to, quote, sign on the dotted line and get into school. But Henry Parrish, I described that Ole Miss needed a Henry Parrish type back. Who better than Henry Parrish to fill that role?
Yeah, I think he's one of the probably most underrated backs in the country. I think he's really explosive, really elusive as well. And I think he makes the most of every carry that he can get. I think one of the best things he also did in that Miami backfield this past year was just his ability to break tackles, man. And I think that explosiveness kind of sets our offense up for a lot of different things that I know Lane and Charlie Wise would love to use efficiently. And I think, you know, as much as we kind of didn't, I wouldn't say dislike the format of the Grove Bowl, but we just kind of had questions about it. I think all that was kind of insistent because of this transfer portal and also just injuries that we are dealing with right now to kind of smoothen those things out. So I'm looking at what the process is right now because I also want to remind people not to forget about Logan Diggs. And although we don't know any timetable for him right now, hopefully he can come back, you know, maybe a game or two after conference play starts and give us some fresh legs in that deep part of the season. I don't know any timetable. He's not really been talked about, so we don't know officially when he will be back or anytime soon. But I think that'll be a key piece for us. But I think if we can continue to just understand what the game plan is and what fits our different systems. And I think Henry Parrish has, of course, developed a great name for himself, but I think can also fit our offense really well in that specimen.
Yeah, and he isn't the only running back name that people have heard. Damien Martinez, the running back out of Oregon State, is another one that people are thinking about as well. He's a durable guy. I talked to Brian Smith, the Locked On recruiting analyst, and remember that? He's like, hey, if you have Damien Martinez on one side and Quinshon Judkins on the other, I would take Damien Martinez, which tells me if Ole Miss can land that, that's in good shape, man.
Yeah, and both of these names have been kind of rumored to be with the school for about a month now, I'd say. And I'm a really big fan of Damien Martinez. He just has a knock and a nose for the end zone. He just loves the end zone. He loves to get in and get dirty with it. And I think that is something that we miss. It's kind of, I think, when Quinshawn was first here, it was Zach Evans. I think a lot of us forgot about Zach Evans and what the combo of them was, because he kind of dealt with injuries his year here as well. But I think a good dynamic of Damien Martinez, Henry Parrish together as well. But we can't also forget about Ulysses Bentley. They all bring different dynamics to the offense that can be utilized in a different dynamic. One of the things that we did a lot last year was that little fake swing pass, and it was that RPO, whether we would dump it off to the running back on the side or we get a pass to the tight end usually. I think when you get the ability to get different running backs, they can utilize that offense really well, because as well, the RPO, as a defense, you know what's coming, but it's hard to understand how to stop it, because you don't know if you need a formation on the left more, you need to put safeties back. And so with the development of guys like that, I think they can be really good. But Damien Martinez is somebody that when you get inside that 20-yard box, you know who to get a rock to. And I think he has just developed a good name for himself as well, Oregon State. And just a guy that I used to say, a coach used to tell me as a kid growing up, that just keep driving your legs, keep driving your legs. And that's what Damien Martinez does. It's hard to tackle this guy because he just keeps going. It's like he has just an unstoppable motor on him. And I think, people, you go watch a little field YouTube videos on him, you'll see that. And I think that could be a really good essence and a confidence boost as well to our offense that maybe needs to a little bit improve as well. And one more thing as well, a guy like Damien Martinez for an offensive line can kind of slow down the game if needed. And because like Ulysses Bentley and Henry Parrish, very, very great running backs, but they're also really quick on the line at times. And then at times can cause confusion on the O-line, and I think a guy like Damien Martinez can slow the game down a little bit just for us to get a quick little rest if needed, but could also still give us yards after the carry. So that's a little good piece that I'll put in about Damien Martinez. So an exciting time right now. We'll see who we get. We'll see if we get both, but it'll be a good statement to see who gets to take over and help out the Ulysses Bentley, that running back position.
All right, before we get out of here real quick, it was a weird series with Mississippi State and baseball this weekend. Friday night was more of the same. I mean, it's a game that we've seen several times over. State ended up winning that game like 8-0. And then the next day there was a bounce back. Liam Doyle threw the ball. Ended up being an extra inning games into the 12th inning. A Mississippi State player hit what would have been probably the game-winning home run if Ole Miss hadn't come back. Completely goes 2022 Tennessee and flips his bat way in the air and completely shows out. Mike Bianco gets injected, just loses his mind over this. Yeah. Ole Miss fights back and wins that game and absolutely dominates Sunday. It's almost like, hey, did Johnny Long fix Ole Miss baseball? I just say I'm very proud of what Mike Bianco did, because he was right in what he did as well. But I think that energy and kind of respect that he has for his players and able to go out there and do that, showed the players, showed the fans, honestly, that he still has a bit of edge to him. And I think that was needed. I think it was something that riled up the crowd and riled up his players to understand that we got a guy in our corner that believes in us. And although we're going through hard times right now, we got a leader that believes in us. And I think we responded well to that. I think the crowd, to my surprise, was really good this weekend. Again, we've been struggling lately, but also we played Arkansas, we played Kentucky, we played Tennessee. Those are some of the top teams in the country right now. And I said before, this was never going to be easy. But over the last 2 series, we put up a better fight than I thought we were going to. So I'm very proud just in the last 2 weeks of how the team has come together, I guess, and just continue to fighting and not giving up no matter the parameter of what we've been playing or the outside noise. So they've done a really good job with that. And Mason Nichols had an absolutely phenomenal day yesterday. He just looked really comfortable on the mound. And I just hope we can continue to develop each part of our game. Arkansas State's coming up, so that'll be a manageable game, hopefully a series win for us there. But I'm excited to see where this little Mike Bianco turn goes for our baseball team right now. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Daylan Flowers stopping by for his weekly Ole Miss rant, I guess we can say. You have a good one. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right. Appreciate you, man. As always, hotty toddy, y'all.